and by the cultures that practice Islam, not by the laws of Islam. And I actually use the laws of Islam to allow me a greater role in society. With everything, once you lose your critiquing analysis, once you lose your scholarship, where you go and you say, okay, this is what the theory is, let's look at the theory, let's discuss it, debate it, and so on. Once you lose that critiquing academic discussion, then what you do becomes a habit, and the habits become part of a culture. And habits are dictated by practices and by people and so on. And so you find if you go to Indonesia or to Turkey or to the Middle East, you find that there are cultures that have been strongly influenced by Islam. And people do things because their mother did it, their grandparents did it, that's what they were told they should do, not because they've actually gone to the source material and discovered it and critiqued it and said, okay, that was appropriate when we didn't have water or when we're using wells or we were in this situation, but now in a different situation, the actual theory should apply differently. And that's the difficulty. When I first became a Muslim, there was so much culture that was presented to me as part of the religion. Oh, you should do this, you should do that. And it was all culture. It was all just habits that these people had that had no basis whatsoever in the religion. I think that's something which a lot of Muslims in the West are discovering by meeting Turkish and Indonesian and Middle Eastern Muslims and saying, hey, we don't do that. And then they say, oh, well, maybe that's your culture. And then they go and they research it and they find out, that's not religion, that's just culture. So we don't need to follow it. There is so much breadth of scholarship that you can use to argue against a repressive culture. But if you don't have that tool, you're kind of handicapped. And I feel like handicapping at the moment. That I know enough to be able to allow me to do everything I want to do, but at the same time, I don't know enough to be able to really counteract a lot of those things that happen in every culture, where men get in control and they selectively interpret things and they look at things from one point of view, and I just don't have the tools at the moment to be able to really, reduce that effect.
Of Isa or Jesus, there is one chapter in this Holy Quran in the name of his mother, chapter Mary. We don't find chapter in the name of the mother of our Prophet. This shows us how Islam holds a great respect for Jesus and his mother. We believe that he was born miraculously, without any interference from any human being. And we don't believe that he was God or son of God. We don't believe that he was crucified. But we believe that God saved him and left him up to the heaven. And he will come before the day of judgment to spread peace and justice again on this earth.
So I think there is a misconception among, let's say, a feminist Western idea of what equality means in a Western situation, which Islamic women do not experience in the same way.
Muslim women, particularly in Western countries, and I think increasingly because of the internet in more majority Muslim countries, they are trying to establish themselves in positions of and ensure that the culture doesn't override them. One of the things about feminism is that it's battling against institutionalized patriarchy, particularly in the church. For Muslims, though, we don't have a church. But what we do have are still patriarchal attitudes amongst our leaders. So for Muslim women, they don't want to have a role in a church. So, because we don't have one, what they want to do is to be able to have an influence in Muslim political areas. And they're doing that. They're gradually doing that a lot more. And so there's a very different agenda between feminists in the West and feminists, if you can call them that, in the Muslim world, because the feminists in the West are basically calling on Muslim women to say, oh, well, Islam is a bad religion, it puts you down, you have to wear the hijab, and so therefore you should go against it. And they can't understand why Muslim women would say, no, we love our religion. It actually gives us more rights than the culture does. And we respect and we love those rights. And we want to use the religion to enhance our position in society. One of the things about Muslim women is that in terms of motherhood, and the feminist movement's gone against this motherhood area, women in the Muslim community are very, very highly regarded in terms of their role as mothers. So if you've got a lot of children and you've taught them well, you have a very strong, influential position and you're very highly regarded. And that's something which, as a mother, you feel immense pride. It doesn't mean to say you can't work, and I've done lots of work and lots of community activism, but ultimately, like a lot of mums around the world, the thing I've achieved most and I'm most proud of is the fact that I've contributed to the lives of 6 other people, that I've helped them to have a fantastic start in life and that they respect me for it. And so ultimately, the goals of feminism in the West and the goals of women's rights in the Muslim community are actually different. We don't want to be gay, we don't want to enhance our sexuality, we don't want to be like men, we want to be women, we want to be fulfilled as sexual beings, which we're allowed to in our religion. We want to be mothers and we want to be activists, we want to be community workers, we want to be educated, which is our right in the religion, and we want to be powerful in our own way, but in a way that is unique to every woman. We don't want to be like men, and that's the difference between, I think, what's happening in the Muslim world and what's happening in the Western world. Look, the hijab is a really interesting issue, and it's so much has become political about it.
Yes.
And discussed about it. And I think it's because in a lot of the Western world, if I call it that, what a woman's role is, what her identity is, hasn't been clear. She doesn't know if she wants to be like a man, she doesn't know if she wants to be sexual, she doesn't know if she wants to be attractive, she doesn't know if she should be attractive to everybody or just to her family. So it's kind of confusing. So you have feminists who say, no, we can be like men, and you have a whole industry which is geared to making a woman an accessory to a male. Beautiful, with lots of jewellery and stuff, and still struggling to make an impact on society. And that's where the feminists come in to try and allow them to have a role. Whereas with a woman who wears the hijab, it's a completely different story, because immediately you say, I don't have to be an accessory. I can wear pretty colours, I can make myself look reasonable, you know, as in not old or ugly, but I don't have to be attractive sexually. So immediately it reduces a whole agenda of social interaction. So before I was a Muslim, I used to like and dislike the fact that if I sat with male company, they would find me maybe sexually attractive and, you know, a bit of eye play and, you know, a few comments and pat on the shoulder, and I used to like that as approval, but I used to dislike it because it was interfering with my personal space, and that wasn't really how I wanted to be seen, but at the same time it meant I was, you know, acceptable. Once I became Muslim, put the hijab on, the whole communication channel changed. And that debate about what the hijab means has become so argued about. For some women, it's not an issue. I mean, they weren't having to deal with that anyway, so they don't see the hijab as being assisting in that social interaction. And for them, it is purely a spiritual expression or sometimes a cultural expression. For some, these days, in parts of Sydney, it's a fashion statement.
Yeah.
Like any item of clothing. You take a coat. Why do you wear a coat? You know, it might be because you want to look professional. It might be because all your friends wear it. It might be because it's the latest in design with Gucci.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it depends on why you wear it. But for me, I love wearing the hijab, and I love the identity as a Muslim. And I love the fact that, to me, it helps to remind me about my relationship with God.